All right, the hat is going backwards, flipping the switch for Troublemaker Tuesday. It is a total battle royale in the markets. EV tax credits being lifted, maybe? And Amazon finally getting to drone delivery. Finally.
The people really want to know.
Finally.
I don't know.
Finally, but it's a maybe. We'll talk about that in a second. It's a finally, but it's a maybe. It's Troublemaker Tuesday, everybody. If you don't know what that means, it means it's the day we lean in and double down on innovation, because all innovation, let's face it, is trouble for somebody.
Come on.
All innovation is trouble for somebody, because look, people defend what they have built, and innovation by definition means doing things a different way. So Troublemaker Tuesdays, we're going to focus on a couple things that have innovation at the center of them. Just like, I guess, let's be honest, that's kind of what we talk about every day.
Right. Yeah.
Every day. Hats are backwards. That's our innovation for today. Which isn't really an innovation.
This is actually the day when my kids love the most, when the hat goes backwards. They're like, Dad, you were crazy today.
Backwards hat day. I've noticed that Danielle has been saying when I come to the office, she's a hat backwards already, huh? Right? Yeah. And today I said to her, I was like, I was born with my hat backwards.
That's right. That's
like
right.
I was born ready.
Actually, I have one of my mentors in the automotive side of in the retail side of the business. He always was like, I will never do business with a hat backwards guy. And I was like, this is going to go wrong. Because I've been throwing that hat backwards when it's necessary.
That's just getting in the way of his business sense. So we had our hat backwards yesterday and pumped out a ton of video content about our trip to Philly to get ready for the ASOTU conference, ASOTUCon conference. So we released it yesterday. We played it yesterday at the beginning of the thing. But if you go to our social media account on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, you can see the video. I'm sure we'll see it again, but it gives you a good front row seat look at the inside of the space, which is bananas.
It's dope. Like it's really just. I cannot wait to kind of have the event takeover, and just like literally you'll feel like you're walking into this like just all encompassing experience. And it's going to be really exciting. We had a ton of people sign up for our 24-hour first release email. So if you go to ASOTUCon.com, just know that if you sign up there, you're going to get a 24-hour head start on acquiring tickets. And what we know is we can only have 600 people there. And it looks like only 400 tickets, based on all of our partnerships and people that are already engaged in it, will actually be for sale. So that's not a lot when we're talking about a standalone conference. So
especially if you're an industry partner, right?
Yes.
Industry partner tickets will be even a bigger limitation. We did decide in the beginning, we were talking about, can we even release industry partner tickets for sale at all? Right. And we were like, probably not. And then we were like, man, we have so many OGs, ASOTU OGs, who just aren't in a place where their company can sponsor, or they're not attached with a company can sponsor. Right. So we are going to release an allocation, because we got to give some love to the OGs. And I'm going to say this right now. We didn't talk about this, but if you have the POAP that we issued at the year-end extravaganza and you want a ticket, you are definitely going to get one, right? You have to buy it still, but you will definitely get an allocation. So if you have the POAP, which is the NFT we issued, so I mean, we're talking hardcore OGs, right? Yes. If you have that, we'll allocate one for you if you want it, but we're going to have to put a time limit on it. So we'll let you know more about that soon. I don't know if you noticed, Kyle, but people in the financial world are a little bit escalated at the moment.
I think I got like 20 messages yesterday that were all kind of like,
pants on fire?
Like if you, yeah, it was like between dumpster fire and like the eye emojis that just look this way, right? It's like, oh boy. That's kind of the mood that hit yesterday from a markets in general perspective.
Across the board.
It was unbelievable. And so we want to break it down just a little bit. We're not going to get too in the weeds. Just know on the front end, anything that we say or contribute right at this point is not financial advice. We are not financial advisors, but we want to talk a little bit about what happened in the market yesterday.
Yeah. So let's start with crypto. Because we talk about crypto all the time, right? You talk about it in the highs, you got to talk about it in the lows. People are starting to call us, we're heading into a crypto winter, right? There was a big question, like, will crypto be like a gold standard hedge against inflation. But what we're seeing right now is that the crypto market is following the general consumer sentiment around the general markets. Bitcoin dropped to under $21,000, which is way below its 2-year high. Ethereum dropped under $1,100 for a short period. It is up a little bit back over $1,200. But remember, Ethereum was capping out in the $4,000 to $5,000 range.
Yes.
So we're talking about a major market loss. The overall market, crypto markets lost $300 billion in value.
Can you believe that? That is
a lot of billions.
Yeah. So one of the things that, if you're not exactly aware, obviously there was a large amount of sell-off and there was a withdrawal from cryptocurrencies. It was like, okay, so there's an issue here. So there became like this massive withdrawal from some of the large crypto exchanges. And then what happened that really triggered basically you see this kind of like slow downturn during the day and then a drop off right around, I think it was like 10 or 11 Eastern. And one of the major holding companies, I think the name is
Celsius. Yep.
Lockdown withdrawals, which
so basically give you a little bit.
Yeah.
So Celsius is where you can deposit crypto, right? And then you can actually borrow against it. So if I have, $10,000 in crypto, I can put it in Celsius's thing, right? And then I can borrow against that crypto, just like a home equity loan, right?
It's a decentralized bank.
Crypto is the asset. I'm borrowing against my own asset. But when the mechanism hit that crypto dropped so quickly and so fast that Celsius is like, we're pausing withdrawals. So you can't borrow against your own crypto. Your own crypto is fine, but obviously that doesn't necessarily invoke confidence. So the real question is, what is that going to do? We often talk about like people investing in responsibly in cryptocurrency because it's new and anything's new. And it's like, hey, try not to invest in anything you can't lose. And if you can afford to lose it, then you can afford the ride out the winter. So I think we'll see. Really, we're going to find out. Do people have confidence in crypto as a long-term play, right? Just like when you bet in the stock market, you're betting in the long-term play of the U.S. economy. So crypto is different, but we'll see what happens. Talking about the general economy. So the general market has now entered bear market territory, which means it stayed below 20% from January session highs for a sustained period of time. So it's 20% down over a sustained period, official bear market. The question is like, does this continue? Does it lead to recession, which is close, has a different definition, right? Or do we hold here and start to rebuild?
Well, and I think everybody is eyes up. We linked up these 3 stories. Everyone is eyes on the Fed tomorrow. And the question is, originally they had talked about a 50 basis point, so 0.5% interest rate hike. And now the kind of like news in the air is it might be 75 basis points, which would be a
3/4
point raise. And so, just interesting because there are actually a lot of people that are saying, hey, look, that the Fed actually could land this plane much more softly and not head into recession if that balance in interest rates,
if
and consumer demand all kind of match up. Actually, it was interesting, specifically in Nashville today. The housing market saw a 47% increase in just the available inventory in the housing market, which is a pretty big deal because in Nashville.
So instead of one house, now there's 1.4 houses available in Nashville.
Yes, which is a big deal.
Total inventory.
Yeah, which is a big deal. Yeah, that's actually total inventory. Which is a big deal because when you look at like consumer demand and the ability to purchase, it's saying like, hey, there's a little bit more inventory available, meaning you're going to see that like supply and demand start to balance. And actually the report was, hey, this is actually a good thing. It's not like it's
cool off the market
and 20% increase in inventory. It's just enough inventory to balance demand. And I think that we're going to see that in multiple places. We talked about like the Targets and the Walmarts having this inventory on hand for certain consumer goods. Right. And I think that like level balance. And so I'm interested to see what over the next 3 to 4 days the markets do in response to the interest rates. So just heads up and the understanding, just kind of like, you don't have to be deep in the weeds on all this market stuff, but understanding what this does to consumer sentiment and the recognition of affordability or, like cash on hand for a lot of people.
For sure.
Just being consumer
changes behavior.
mentality. Yes.
You know, the Wall Street Journal article that we linked up in the show notes, a quote from it, 2 consumer surveys have also shown households' expectations of future inflation have increased in recent days. And that data could alarm Fed officials because they believe such expectations can be self-fulfilling. So basically, consumer sentiment can actually make it happen, right? It's really a perception thing. And once you start perceiving it, right, actually your behaviors change in a way that actually make it happen, if that makes any sense. So, I mean, our takeaway on this is very simple, right? It's affordability. We've been talking about it for the last 6 weeks. Affordability, right? Having the right inventory that your consumer is looking for, the one that they can afford, that they're willing to drive, they're willing to pay for. The people that have the right inventory, we're right back to that game, right? Having the right inventory. It's not having any inventory, especially with used cars. Having the right inventory is where we think focusing on that will be something you can control, because you can't control anything else that we just talked about.
Bingo. I would also say, I'm just going to say this real quick, because anytime you see like, and this happened in the height of COVID, it happened in the 08, 09 type recession. Anytime you see these like massive market swings or massive things that are hitting the news, it is important with your team within your business to be aware enough yet not overwhelmed by the news. And so making sure that your team is also approaching the news and the way that consumer sentiment is with a healthy appetite for knowledge, without like going so deep where it's just like,
it's enveloping.
Woe is me,
right? Don't
right?
get
And
caught
it's
up in the
enveloping.
drama.
Exactly.
Right? Be
Like,
aware of it. Don't
figure
get
out
caught
how
up
to
in it.
work with your team, your leadership team, your frontline people, to make sure that the news is an awareness level that's healthy for your business going forward. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's talk about something else. So there was a letter signed by 4 major OEMs, GM, Ford, Stellantis, and Toyota, strongly urging Congress to lift the EV tax credit that has been in place. So basically, they said to Congress, if you haven't aware, like the U.S. offers a $4,500 incentive to anyone who purchases an EV, and they put a 200,000 unit cap on each manufacturer. So Tesla was the first one to hit it, right? They sold 200,000, claimed for 200,000 $4,500 credits, and now they're done. No credit for them, right? And so as you know, as the manufacturers roll out EVs, you know, they're all in different places in the race on when that credit rolls out, which obviously renders a different competitive advantage. So these 4 manufacturers says, hey, we're investing over $170 billion in the EV market. So we're asking you to lift the credit to even out the playing field so that the investments are all kind of have a fair stake, and then give us a sunset date. Let us all know when the credit is going to end. This is really being propelled by the fact that, you know, people are looking at a potential Republican takeover of the House and the Senate, meaning more conservative financial policy. You know, Representative Joe Manchin, you've heard his name before, from Virginia. He said, hey, people are lining up to buy the product. So I don't know why we are incentivizing them to buy it already, because they're already lined up.
Agreed. I mean, yeah, it's tough to just like rid the world of this policy, right? Rid the U.S.
You can't,
of this
right?
policy
You can't just do that, right?
just overnight. But like having a clear sunset date so that we can, because here's the other piece is, how can you really measure demand when you are curbing demand with incentives in an environment where the
You're
rest
curbing
of
it. You're just messing with it.
you're just straight messing with it when the rest of society is under a supply chain issue, which is completely dictated by demand.
Yep.
Not by incentives. And so it is a weird situation for EVs to be in. And like, think about, if you're investing that much money in something that is driven by incentives instead of raw demand, the question mark is the demand really there for my investment?
Let's not talk about the solar industry. See what happened there. Or what's happening there.
Going to
That's
get dicey on Troublemaker Tuesdays right here.
We're getting all macro financial policy today, Kyle. Don't we look like a couple of financial guys that you should be listening to?
Look at my suit. I got it all tied up. You should be listening
to us today. Let me just say. So here's our takeaway for dealers, right? Don't count on the money. It's obvious, right? Don't count on the money. But I think the indicator that we pull away from this is that we can definitely count on the demand.
Yes, I agree.
And so, like, this goes back to a lot of stuff we talk about. If you know the demand is there, you know the demand is going to be part of the future, start to build the ecosystem that educates consumers.
Well, and I would actually take it past, I would take it like one level deeper than demand. I would say count on interest. And that drives education, which then drives demand.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Very good.
And so count on interest. It's there. Educate and do your part in driving demand so that these investments pay off,
What is
both
it?
for you and the OEMs.
AIDA was attention, interest, desire, action. Right.
There it is.
So you're saying like, let's move up to interest. It's there. And you know, if you're listening to Kyle, you're putting coffee shops in every one of your stores right now. He's just really
Just
making
so I
the
can
play.
come by.
He's just making the play for when we do the US tour, the ASOTU US tour on the bus. He's got good coffee.
I'm like, if
everywhere.
you got a coffee shop, we're coming to you.
I'm on to you. Yeah, right. Exactly. It's a prereq. Final story today. Amazon is finally getting into the drone delivery, moving real packages through the air to consumers' houses. Probably. You know, Jeff Bezos famously talked about this in a 60-minute interview almost 10 years ago, and now Amazon's ready to go. They've had some setbacks, right? They've had some crashes. They've had some issues where employees that said when they raised safety concerns, they were fired. But now it's like the final layer of approval, FAA approval, and they're going to start delivering in the town of Lockford, California. I didn't look at where that is. Do you know where Lockford, California is?
I have no clue.
Hold on. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look it up
right now. Lockford, California. You know, it's happening in California. It's probably a little bit off the grid, but that's okay. I do think that
it's outside of San Francisco.
Okay.
So, that's Stockton. It auto-corrected me.
Trouble typing. They're this city
like,
actually
no one,
doesn't exist.
Yeah, they're like, no one. Can you imagine? How long
is so good?
We're about to out them. Nope, it's an actual place.
There it is. Let's see. Outside of San Francisco, Oakland. It is near Stockton. Okay. So
okay. It got me close. Between kind of like a little bit between Sacramento and San Francisco, which makes sense. There's a little bit more green space around that one.
Right.
So they're going to start delivering packages. They said thousands of packages will be available. They don't know what, and they don't know how many, and they're not saying which types of things, but I'm assuming it's going to be small, light things.
Right. Yeah. I think it was like 10 pounds or less or something like that but I mean, yeah, you got to have that dialed in because you drop a 10-pound basket from out of the sky. Like, woo, that'll hurt. That'll leave a mark, right? Wherever it is. So I'm intrigued. I think it's pushing the boundaries. And I'm going to say this. I think it's actually, it may not be the end all be all solution, but I think it may open up like some innovation on the other side of it.
Always. Interesting.
Yeah, I think, I don't know what that is. I'm just saying, I think that like hundreds of drones flying around in a city probably isn't practical, but some level of, like ability to deliver packages with more technology is going to be the output of this.
Well, imagine you deploy here. Dream with me for a second, Kyle. It's like a drone launching truck that drives into a neighborhood and then
And because in my neighborhood, it takes the guy a solid 15 minutes to get all of the packages in that neighborhood.
Yo, if they do that, I'm going to be upset because you heard it here first. They're probably already building it.
They already got it.
But that would be awesome. Like, I drive the drone deployment truck. Well, if there was ever an autonomous vehicle, let's just face it. It's going to be a thing. But I was thinking from an automotive standpoint, right? Like, imagine like those times when you're fixing your car. Well, when I was younger, I always tried to fix my own car and I didn't know how to do it, but there's always
you're like holding something together
and you need a part. And it was usually like, where's that reflective muffler tape was usually the thing. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Cause that's how my cars were held together. But I'm even thinking like dealerships and stuff like, different filters and key fobs and little pieces. It'd be pretty handy if you can get that in under 30 minutes via drone. And if you have a dealership, you have the space to land it, right? Just make a little spot to land it. So I don't know. That's what we're talking about today. There's definitely a lot of trouble on this Tuesday, but the bottom line is we're walking into a day where we get to decide to make our own trouble, whatever your environment is. Kyle said, don't get into the drama. He's right. Know about it. Don't get into it because there's a lot of innovation to be had. There's a lot of trouble to be made. And there's a lot of people to serve. You watching this, we're alive, we're awake. What else can we ask for? Let's go do it.